Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Symbiosis 3 weekend events. And today I'm very pleased to introduce to you Tetiana, and she's going to talk to us and demonstrate how to use watercolors. So take it away.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. And today I will be talking about watercolors, and I won't be talking about calligraphy. No calligraphy for today. only watercolors. I would like to start by saying why I am doing watercoloring. I started painting with watercolors in a high school because watercolors were the most affordable paint for me. It was impossible to buy oil paints or acrylic paints, so we had only watercolors. So I started my art journey with watercolors. But at that time, it seems to me that watercolors were not serious paint, yeah, because in each museum you can see only oil painting. And oil, it's okay. Watercolor, it's something like for kids, you know. And only now, many years ago, I understand that watercolor is much more difficult than oil, than acrylic paints, because watercolor doesn't forgive mistakes. It's like calligraphy. You have only one chance to do right move. Yeah. That's why I love watercolor, and that's why I like calligraphy. And now I do some commission watercolor illustration for my clients and for photo stocks. More often, I paint nature, animals, flowers, and so on. Maybe like here, if you see it. Yeah. So let me start by showing you my presentation. Just a moment. Yeah. At first, I will show you my presentation, and then it will be a demo. Watercolor for calligraphers. Why watercolor? Why not oil paint? Why not acrylic? Because for me, watercolor and calligraphy, it's a perfect match. We do the light lines when we do calligraphy, and watercolors are very gentle paints, so they match each other perfectly. And how calligraphers can use watercolor in their artworks? First of all, we can create backgrounds for artworks. It's actually very easy. I will show it you today. You don't have any you can do it even if you don't have any experience in watercolor. It's very easy. Of course, we can add some watercolor illustration to our calligraphy, like small flowers, small branches, or whatever you like. And of course, we can use watercolor instead of ink for writing. So let's talk about the backgrounds. Here you can see some samples of my artworks where I used watercolor. I didn't paint flowers, I didn't paint some objects. It's just like abstract background, and it looks perfect. Yeah. The second one, illustration. Today we will do those flowers. Yeah. For example, here you can see some place cards, and when you add small watercolor illustration, it looks much more rich. Yeah. So illustration will enrich your calligraphy. But you should always remember and realize what are you doing. Do you create calligraphy with illustration or illustration with calligraphy? Actually, it's my big problem because I do love watercolors, and I sometimes sometimes I try to do calligraphy with illustration, but in fact, it's vice versa. I do illustration with calligraphy. So remember about it. And then, of course, we can write with watercolors. And why it's so easy, why it's so great? Because even if you have a small set of watercolors, it gives you a lot of colors to mix, to use. You don't need to buy a lot of different ink bottles. Yeah, you can use only your small set and you have a lot of colors. If you mix it, you will have more. So you can write with watercolors, especially if you write with brush pen, for example, or with usual brush. So what you need to have to when you write with when you do watercoloring. First of all, you need your paints, watercolors, you need brushes, and you need paper. Yeah. And at the very beginning, you don't need to have many tools and materials. Start with some basic stuffs. I will show you. But it's very important to buy your tools and materials of a good quality, because the result of your artwork really depends on this. Maybe, okay, I will talk about a little bit later. So just remember, when you buy some stuffs, buy professional watercolor, buy good brushes, you should buy good paper. It's very important. When I talk about watercolor, I always say that you need to buy professional watercolors. Never buy watercolors for children's art. It's not a real watercolor, yeah. Because sometimes, yeah, some people come to my classes and they have these sets for children art, and it's not okay, yeah. Professional watercolors apply softly to paper. The colors are rich, beautiful, and they mix easily. So when you buy watercolor, at first, you don't need to have a lot of colors. Don't buy big sets. Actually, my favorite set has 16 colors, and for me, it's enough. It's even more than I need. So don't buy these huge sets. It's not necessary. You can always mix color to get the color what you want. So you know that we have only 3 basic colors, okay? Everything else we can mix. Additionally, you can always purchase not the whole set. You can purchase one color. It's always possible. So you can, yeah, don't buy big sets. Because mostly I do botanical illustration or some nature illustration. I prefer natural colors. What colors to choose depends on what are you going to paint. Okay, here you can see my a set of colors. If you want, I can send you to our chat. If you want this list, I can send it. Just a moment. Oh, I need to understand how to do it. Yeah, I see. Just a moment, and I will send you this list. Just a moment, please. Yes. Done. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, the next one is brushes. My favorite brush for calligraphy is, of course, a round brush. It's like it's pointed brush. Yeah, this brush has very sharp tip, so you can use it to draw even a small details. For the very beginning, you don't need to buy a lot of brushes. 3 brushes, it's enough. So here you can see different sizes. Yeah, for example, 12 is the biggest one. I use it for drawing in backgrounds and some large objects. But because of the small tip, it's okay to do a small thin line with this brush. The second number is 6. It's for medium-sized objects, and 0 is for small parts, small details. It will be enough for you. Excuse me. And a lot of books, a lot of painters recommend to use natural brushes like squirrel and so on. But I prefer to use synthetic brush. It must be soft and it must be round pointed brush, and it's okay. Why I prefer to use synthetic? Because they last longer. All my natural brushes, I use them for 1 or 2 months, and that's all. For example, my favorite brush, synthetic brush, I use it 2 years. I have been using it 2 years, and it's okay. Okay, but also it must be higher quality brushes, not the cheapest one. And the last material is paper. Yeah, it's very difficult. Maybe it's the most difficult material to choose, because there are a lot of watercolor papers, and sometimes we buy it, we taste it, and it's not okay. I will try to explain how to choose it, but it depends on you. It depends on what are you going to paint. First of all, each watercolor paper has a density. I will maybe show you the... No. I will finish my presentation and then I will show you my paper. So it can be very different, from maybe 170 to 800 grams on square meter. What it means? Just a moment, I need to drink some water. Just a moment, I'm so sorry.
If anybody has a question for Tatiana,
Yeah, if
you can
someone
type
has a
it.
question, you can
Yeah.
write me.
Yeah, you can type it in the chat. So later when
Mhm.
she pauses for breath, I will direct the question to her. So
Okay.
okay.
So about the density of the paper, it can be very different. It can be from 117 to 800 grams per square meter. The thicker the paper, the less it deforms when it wet. So if you prefer to use a lot of water when you do your watercolor painting, you need you need a paper of a higher density. If you use watercolor a little bit, you do some small details without using big amount of water, you can buy like 200 to 300 grams per square meter. Okay, then there is 3 types of paper. It could be made of cotton, cellulose, and it could be mixed. The cotton paper, it's the most expensive one. It's made from cotton, yeah. This paper holds water for a very long time, and it gives you an opportunity to paint wet. Yeah, you can do a lot of layers using cotton paper. You can do one layer, then another layer. Yeah, it's okay. But it has very high price. Cellulose, it's much more cheaper, but it deforms from the water. So if you use one layer or 2 layers, it's okay. If you want to do multi-layer technique, it's not okay. And of course, it could be a mix of cotton and cellulose. So it depends how many cotton or how many cellulose this paper has. So its properties may be different. Yeah. And the last one characteristic about paper, it's about the grain. A little bit later, I will show you my paper because here I see you won't see the details. So the paper could be satin, it means without no grain. It could be medium, fine grain, and it could be rough with a big texture. Yeah. What type of paper to choose depends on you. And if we are talking about calligraphy, of course, it's much more easier to use satin paper because the surface of the paper is very smooth and it's easy to write. When we use rough paper, it's very nice to do watercolor on it, but it's very difficult to do calligraphy on it. So you should choose what is more important for you. Because once I bought a very expensive cotton paper, it was a rough paper, it was perfect to do watercolor on this paper, but it's almost impossible to do calligraphy on it. So it depends on you what to choose. So for me, it's pointless to give you some advice what paper to choose and maybe even what colors to choose, because it depends on your style. What are you going to write or paint? Yeah, it depends on you. I can show you only my materials and talk about what I do, but then you should decide, you should choose by yourself. Yeah. Okay, now I will try to switch off my camera and to show you my paper, to show you my brushes and so on, and then we will try to create watercolor background, and after that we will try to do place cards. Okay. Okay. Let me try to do this. Okay. Okay. Do you see my camera?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
good.
Okay. So I will switch off myself because I need to do like this. Okay, here. Oops. Sorry. Something went wrong. Sorry, something went wrong. I will try to do it again. I don't know why. Sometimes it happens. Okay, I will switch off myself. Okay. Okay, here you can see. Yeah, remember when I was talking about the paper, I told you that it could be a different density of the paper. Here we have this one, and it's a rough paper. Yeah, you can see rough paper. And if I show you this paper, you can see the grain. Yeah, it's easily to see. And for example, I did this illustration on this paper, and you see how it perfectly fits with watercolor. It's really a big pleasure to draw, to paint on this paper. Okay, here, maybe my favorite paper. Yeah, it has another density, and the grain is like a middle grain. It's not rough, it's like a middle grain, but you still can see it. It's also okay for watercolor illustration. And the third one is a satin paper. So you also can see it, and it's hot pressed satin paper. And here you can't see any grain. Yeah, it's very soft, it's very gentle, but without any grain. It's perfect for calligraphy, actually. It's very easy to write on this paper. But I don't like this watercolor effect, so I don't like it. I like watercolor on a grain paper. But it also depends on you. Okay, and the last one, sometimes you can use paper like multi-techniques paper. Sometimes it's okay when you do small illustration like here, and you don't use a lot of water. Sometimes even this, it's not expensive paper. Sometimes even this paper, it's okay, but you shouldn't use a lot of water. It should be very small, gentle illustration. So, where to start working with watercolors? First of all, I recommend you to do such simple things. You can take your set and do those samples of colors what you have. This will, when you do it, it helps you to feel the colors better. Also, you can take one single color and do such a stretch. Here, you can use intensive color, almost without the water. And then you add some water, and here you can have almost transparent color. Yeah? When we paint with watercolor, we don't use white color. Some sets have white watercolor, but please don't use it. We have white paper, and the white color comes to us from the paper. We don't need it. For example, if we need light yellow, we just add more water to yellow paint. If we need, for example, pink, we take red color and add water to get pink. Also, you can take two colors, for example, like here, blue and green, and try to mix it. Yeah. And the last one, if we are talking about mixing the color, we can mix it in two ways. We can mix it in our palette. For example, let me show you. Okay. We can add blue, and we can add green, and we can receive the color of the sea. It's a little bit dirty on my camera, but in fact, it's a very nice color of the sea. Yeah, it's the first way. It's the first way of mixing color. Another way, you can do it on paper by adding layer to layer. So at first you do the one layer of paint. When it completely dry, you can add another layer of another color. And here, maybe you can see that in the middle, we receive green color. Blue and yellow, it will be green. What to choose, it depends on your style and what are you want to reach on your watercolor. Usually I mix the color on my palette.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and when you do this mixing color layer from layer, this method is called glazing. Okay, and maybe I would like to mix colors with you, but I have only 1 hour, so maybe we will start by doing something like this. Yeah, so we won't do the calligraphy, we will do only the background. Yeah, and let me start by doing it. So we will try to do something similar. Yeah, I will take my rough paper. And for example, here I want to do some background. And here I will add some calligraphy. Very often I use such a masking tape to do a nice frame for my background. Yeah, I can stick this masking tape very carefully to the paper from one side. Just a moment. And the other side. But what you should know about this masking tape. Check how strongly the masking tape sticks on the paper, because sometimes it peels off the layer of the paper. So it's better to check it before you start doing your artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's happen. It's always a challenge. So to create the background with soft blending, we will use a technique that called wet on wet. It means that you will have wet paper and wet watercolors. To do this, firstly, we cover the paper with water. So I take my big brush and I take clean water and put the water on the paper. Yeah. There should be enough water to keep the paper wet for a while, but you shouldn't have any puddles. Yeah. Okay. So we can add some color. When we work with watercolors, first we use light colors, and then we use dark colors. Why? Because it's not a oil paint, it's not acrylic. If we put dark colors, it won't be possible to put some light colors on the top. So we are starting from the most light color. For me, it will be blue. Yeah, and I do it like this. Some parts of my background I leave white because it's nice when you have some white parts. Yeah. Then maybe I will add some violet. When watercolor is wet and our paper is wet, it's easy to mix colors. It's very easy. And then maybe I will add some red, but not a lot. something like this. Remember, I told you about the puddles. Yeah, you can see that I have one here and one there. So how to remove it? I always have a helping dry brush. And to remove a puddle, I put my brush here to take extra water. Yeah, and I have some soft paper. So I do it like this. When our watercolor is wet, like here, the colors are very rich. They are very bright and intensive. When it will be wet, those colors won't be so intensive. So you should remember about it. And if you want to have more intensive colors, you should add more pigments here. If you want to be it very soft, don't be afraid that you have such intensive color here, because it will be much more lighter when it will be when it won't be wet. Okay? Okay. So maybe that's all for my background. All we need to do is to wait when it will be dry, and then remove this masking type. Don't do it now because it's because you will spoil your artwork. Okay, and while we're waiting, we can do some place cards. I have them here. Let me show you. Yeah. So, something like this. You can use any colors you like. It's up to you. Here I did some different colors because I have boys and girls, so I used blue colors for boys and some red, orange colors for girls. Okay. I have some extra empty card here. It's a girl. So if you are not sure in yourself, you can use pencil to make a quick sketch of the future flower, but don't push your pencil too much, because lately you will need to erase it. So do it very, very gentle, please. So for example, here I will have my flower. The stem. Maybe some leaves. That's all. Let me see. Okay, one more thing. When you use watercolors and when you change the colors, it's better to change the water. Here you can see like a violet water. if I use this water for painting, it gives me this violet color to the paper. So please, when you change colors, wash your brushes and change the water. So I will change my water to a new one. And like we did with a background, my first step will be, I will take a smaller brush. So the first step is to put watercolor, or is to put water on my flower, because I want to get a gentle mix of colors. Actually, watercolor, when you use watercolor, you should always control the amount of water on your paper. If there is a lot of water, your colors will mix easily. If your paper is dry, you can't easily mix your color. It will give you a very sharp line. It's okay if you need it. So I put the water on my paper. And now I will add some color. For example, I want to use yellow color as a main color, and I can add it to my flower. Remember that different watercolors have different density. For example, yellow, orange, and red colors has a high density. So I need to use just a little bit of paint and a lot of water to have this bright yellow. Some colors, like blue, for example, they don't have such a big density, high density. And you need to use more pigment for when you paint. So here it is. I put some main color here. Now I would like to add some orange. When you try to paint something, remember that you shouldn't use only one color. If you want your, here we have flowers. If you want flower to look nice, use different colors. So I add some orange here. Yes. It is okay. And yellow and orange are warm colors. I need to add something cold. So I take a little bit of blue and add here to make the color contrast. But I do it very, very gentle. And also, I leave some white parts on my flower. Yeah, that's all. Now we need to wait when our flower will be dry. And while we are waiting, we can make a green steam. Green steam. So I take my brush, the size is 0, because I want to do it very, very gentle, like those lines, calligraphy lines. And I take green color. I don't take a lot of water because I need very sharp line. And let's do it. Okay. And now we can do leaves. Also, I can add light green color, not only one color, to make it look natural. I'm so sorry, it's very difficult to me to draw and to talk at the same time. And the second one. And light green. Yes. Okay. And the last one, we need to make a center of our flower. Yes. And to make it looks more natural, I can add some details like this. My flower is still wet, so maybe next part I will show you on this card. If you want to add some details like this, yeah, do you see these small lines in the center? Yeah. So if you want, yes. So if you want to add some small lines like here, you can't paint wet on wet. Your paper should be dry. So I can take this card, yeah, and add some details. I take red color and I don't use a lot of water. And I do it when my paper is dry, completely dry. And now I can add some details like this. Yeah. And what is the most important thing when you use watercolors? It's very important to stop in time. By applying layer after layer, layer after layer, we risk getting dot and tortured effect. Yeah, and when you're satisfied, you should stop. Okay, and for example, here it's still wet and I can't do it now. I have some pencil drawing in here, and you can erase it only when your paper will be dry, completely dry. Don't do it too early because you will destroy your flower. Okay? And now you can see maybe it's still wet, but anyway, that our background became much more lighter than it was when it was wet. Yeah. So when you use watercolor, always remember that it will be much more lighter when it will be dry. So maybe, let me check the time. Yes, maybe it's all for today. I hope you like it, and I will come back to you. I'm afraid to remove this masking tie because it's still wet. So let me come back to you. Just a moment. Yes. Here. So if you have, oh, Dorothy, I don't see you. It's mute. Yeah.
Hello, nice to meet you.
So if you have any question, you can write me messages, or you can find me on Instagram and write your question or on Instagram. It's not a problem. I will answer you. I would like to give you more during this workshop, but it's only 1 hour.
Yes, really. I'm sure that only by 1 hour it's not such enough for give you chance show all what you can do. But thank you at least for it because I'm just only beginner in watercolor painting, and for me it was very useful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
sharing. Great. Well, I think it's not easy to talk and paint at the same time.
Yeah, it's like to write and to talk.
Yeah, but thank you, Tatiana. That was really helpful. So a lot of tips, a lot of information. Wow. From paper to brush. Oh, we have a question about brushes. Could you please advise if there is a specific way to look after your brushes? Any tips appreciated?
Okay, how to look after my brushes? Just a moment, I will take my brush. And first of all, a lot of my students do it like this. Never leave your brush on your water like this, because it will destroy your brush. Always clean your brush after you paint. If you use watercolors is very gentle paint. It's not acrylic, yeah. So it's enough to clean your brush with water, and it will be okay. Maximum you can use soap and wash your brush. Yeah. Always check the tip of your brush. It must be like this, not like this, not like this. You also always check the form of your brush when it gets dry. Yeah, it's very important. And maybe it's all. Nothing special if I have for small brushes, yeah, when you buy it, you have such, I don't know how to call it, yeah, such plastic thing, and I always put it on. Maybe that's all.
Yeah. And also when it's drying, you don't dry it like this, right? When it's wet, you don't,
Yeah,
because the water goes into the
yes,
the
yes, yes.
Unfortunately, I lost all my sticks for keeping my brush like that, like you showed it last time with this plastic stick. No any ideas for it. I tried to use sticks for cocktail, no, like from for cocktail sticks, but it's only for very big size of brush. For smaller, unfortunately, no ideas.
You know, I've never did it with watercolor brushes, but I have my calligraphy brushes for Romance Capital, and I saw some video from John Stevens, and he used soap to keep the form of the brush. So when the brush is wet, you put it to the soap, and then you gave your brush the form that you need, and it gets dry with the soap. So this soap keeps your brush in a correct position. Maybe it helps, but I've never did it with watercolor brushes, but I do it every time with my calligraphy brushes.
Thank you. For soap, it's a really nice idea. Thank you, we'll try.
Okay, we have another question. Roxana is asking, she has seen some people using gum Arabic to keep the shape of the brushes.
I've never done it, that's why I can't say anything, because yes, maybe, but I don't have such an experience, so sorry.
I would have thought that the gum wouldn't be good for the brushes personally. The soap works very well. Yves Term also suggests the soap and shaping.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can recover a brush if you've left it in water and it's bent. Sometimes by doing the soap and then leaving it for a long time, you can get it to come back.
Yes. It's like a training of your brush. Dorothy, I don't hear you. We don't hear you.
Sorry, Susan Mantis is saying that gum Arabic is recommended, but I've never tried it, so I wouldn't know how it was used. But soap for sure, yes. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes, question? Other questions for Tetiana? Do you separate brushes for shimmer color?
Yeah, because actually we have calligraphy watercolor, and it calls like fine tech, yeah. But for me, it's not a watercolor. It's something very similar, but it's not a watercolor. That's why I don't use my favorite brushes for such a type of paint. I have a separate brushes.
Good tip. Good.
Yeah, of course. If you will clean your brushes, nothing will happen. But I prefer to separate it.
Yes. No other questions? Oh, Karen says you make it look very easy. You make it look very easy.
Actually, yes, watercolor it's not, it's really easy. But what you should do, you should always control the amount of water on your paper and the amount of the paint on your brush. And when you learn how to do it, it really will be easy.
Yes, but it's not always easy. Good, good. Right?
Like a copper plate, yeah, no, when you write copper plate, you should always control the pressuring every time. The same is watercolor, but you should control the amount of water, the amount of paint. That's all.
Yes, it's wonderful to watch you paint, Tatiana. Your flowers are so delicate, and mine look like bleh, bleh, bleh. Oh, it's a delight. Thank you so much. You are very it's a very good sharing session. It's actually on the hour, so I'm going to stop the recording since there are
Okay.
no more questions. Yes. Thank you.